Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you lost city of Atlantis in Sahara. Some new details that I just came across that makes the case that the Eye of Africa is not just the most likely location of Atlantis, but the connection of these out. The details I'm about to share makes this case so compelling that it's practically definitive. So let me jump right into these details. And afterwards, I'll connect the dots and everything so we can see exactly what we're dealing with here. Like I stated in my first video, the legend of Atlantis originates from the ancient Egyptians and the Greek lawmakers. Solon recorded this information while visiting Egypt some 2,600 years ago, and the information was passed down through 6 generations to Plato, who published the account of Atlantis in the Thomas and Cretaceous dialogues some 2,400 years ago and is apparently the only reason why we know about the legend of Atlantis today. Plato stated that the king of the capital of Atlantis was named Atlas, who is the firstborn son of Poseidon, and of course, like I mentioned before, Poseidon had 10 children through 5 sets of twins, and each one of those 10 children went on to rule each of those 10 kingdoms that made up the empire of Atlantis. Now, remember the name Atlas, and hold that thought for a moment as I share something else that will connect the dots on this new information. Here we can clearly see Italy, the Mediterranean Sea, the countries that surrounded the Caspian Sea, the Red Sea, the Nile Delta, to name a few notable features. And let me transition to a different version of the map so we can see things more clearly. But if you look to the left, what do you see there? That's right. The word Atlantis, which is shown to be located south of the Pillars of Hercules or the Strait of Gibraltar and positioned in northwest Africa. And these mountains were in fact named after Atlas, the first king of Mauritania. You know, something else that's interesting to point out, when you research Atlas, the king of Mauritania, there seems to be no connection to Atlantis. I assume that this is related to the fact that nobody has ever considered that the location of Atlantis could be hiding in plain sight in the western Sahara Desert in what is now Mauritania. There is a 2,500-year-old map that annotates the location of Atlantis in northwest Africa, seemingly in the exact location of the record structure. And this map was created by the so-called father of history, a trusted source of documentation praised by modern-day historians for his ability to systematically document information in vivid detail. Then we have this mysterious and incredibly unique structure in Mauritania known as the records. Yet, archaeologists have no idea what civilization they belong to or when. And all of this is in Mauritania, where people who were once known as the Maori people were led by a legendary king whose name was Atlas, the same exact name as the king of Atlantis. But on top of all of this, it just so happens to be in the exact location that is annotated on an ancient map that was created by who we refer to as the father of history. When you simply compare it to what Plato had stated about Atlantis' destruction, describing how an earthquake caused Atlantis to sink into the depths of the ocean. Perhaps that earthquake was the record itself. For example, scientists believe it went through multiple processes of being lifted up and down as its subsurface dome collapsed and later lifted again, a process that was repeated multiple times and creating the concentric circles that we see today. I mean, geologists literally describe it as a dome, so the subsurface dome collapsed. Atlantis sank. Also explaining the earthquake, I mean, this seems fitting, especially when we acknowledge all of the matching, precise similarities, what Plato had said, such as the concentric circles, specifically 3 of water and 2 of land, its precise size and everything else. It certainly seems definitive to me as this far exceeds coincidence. But I'll get back to that in just a moment. First, then he also mentioned that there is evidence. What are these? Were these made in modern times? Here you can see various satellite photos of these structures followed by a zoomed out view. So you can see where they were taken in relation to the records. But look at this one located in the center island of the records. It almost looks like the outline of a castle or something. Perhaps there is a simple explanation for it, but I might be willing to pay several hundred US just to see a photo of what this looks like from the ground. It cannot be overstated just how remote this site is and how little it is visited. This is not a tourist attraction. This thing is in the middle of nowhere, and this is just another example of why the record needs to be studied from the ground and excavated. And it appears that only 4 people mentioned this map, just 4 out of nearly 25,000 comments in the next videos about Atlantis. In other words, it's fair to say that pretty much nobody has heard of this. And it's also worth pointing out that this map shows the Nile River going from east to west, as various legends have long stated. although scientists have not confirmed if those volcanoes are active or not. But surely some of them are, considering that there are at least 400 subglacial lakes underneath that ice. Obviously something is melting it to create those lakes that are underneath as much as 2 miles of ice. And it seems to me that the Antarctica land rise is related to that volcanic activity, not because there's less ice and land is rising like a sponge or something. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.